All right. Um, um, my name is Matheus Stancati, and I'm excited to present my thesis project today. Um, actually, I'm very excited to present my thesis project today. I've been waiting for this for 5 years. The day that I would go on stage and talk about my grand idea, present to a board of jury, um, and got some feedback. But the research that I came across in this past year was somewhat disappointing in a way, which told me that at some point, no matter what I say, only some of you are going to remember my presentation, and most of you are not going to remember what I say or not going to remember who I am at all. Um, and a possible intensifier for that might be the reason that I'm not on a physical stage presenting this through a computer screen. And you like it or not, there is a strong connection between physical space and how we retain memory. So I am looking at the ways that we perceive reality, the way we understand space, the way we form memories, and this idea that neuroscience is bringing of us understanding the brain and how it works in order for us to think, how can we use memories to augment space, create new realities? But before I jump into my project, I just want to explain that this is not a new concept at all. And this goes back to ancient Greece. And Cicero actually was talking about this when he told the story of Simonides and the story about the memory palace. And it's a technique of remembering things that is used up to today. All those people that are remembering full decks of cards, they are using mental spaces in their mind in order to understand concepts and retain memory. So, and this idea traveled through time, and we see it again in the Renaissance in the 15th and 16th century with the memory theater, with the work of Camillo, and also in the Renaissance again, same century with the memory wheel by Bruno. And even though they're all different ideas for how to retain memory, they use the same Loki and Imaginus, the idea of connecting space, connecting physical space with the images, with the memories. So what I'm proposing here is, what if we can actually augment into the perception of physical space elements of our memories, our own personal information translated into what you would call a cognitive cladding in a way. So first, welcome to the room. This is my room, and today is the 396th, I believe, day since quarantine started. And this is going to be the subject in which I experiment with perception. I try to understand the ways we see the world and how we can use memory to create these different versions of the room, these different versions of what we understand as reality. So first, understand how to shape perception, we have to understand how we perceive. And neuroscience tells us that as light bounces on objects, we convert it into electrical signals. It goes to this place called the thalamus, and then it reaches the primary visual cortex. From there, it distributes two ways. One way is the dorsal stream, which goes up, and that's where you interpret space, where position. And the other one is the ventral stream, which perceives what it is. You actually identify things. But the interesting thing is that the brain is constantly telling itself what it believes it sees. And that's what people like Anil Seth are talking about predictive perception. You're using what you know, your memories, to understand and perceive the world. And that already tells a lot. You know, your brain is already augmenting itself. So why can't we augment it? So a system for augmenting that would be channeling this light that comes from the environment, creating an external processing based on memories, and then transfer it back. So give back the light to where your eyes are. In a way, externalizing what happens in the brain in order to create this memory versions of reality. And well, I broke it down into three parts. One is creating the synthetic space. How can we take the idea of creating the space in our mind, but accessible? You can enter it. So Using aligned frames, I can remodel the world based on depth out of 2D images. So just like your eyes going through space and make sense of what it's around, these models or the digital twins of my room are created then with similar ideas. And the interesting thing is that once aligning this reality with the actual room, I'm able to enter the space, touch every single material, but still have the opportunity to experiment and go beyond what's possible in reality and do a couple of tests with perception. So step number 2 would be, how do we retrieve a memory? How do you access data sets for memory itself? So I'm gonna showcase that with one of my personal memories. I grew up in Brazil my whole life and I came here for college. And this is the Ivy house where I grew up. This is me and my brother up top of the house. And I cannot go back to the house right now, but based on a couple of images, what I can do is train a language processor neural network to understand what it thinks the house is. And this on the right is what AI thinks my house is when I describe it to it. So basically, based on an image collection of the house, using a neural network, I can get prompts or text descriptions of what it thinks it sees. Probably a building covered in plants, probably a greenhouse. So based on those prompts, running a second neural network, I can get images of buildings that do not exist. So here I'm telling the network to generate rooms made of those words that AI interpreted on my house, creating a whole data set of thousands of images of plant covered house. So using this generated data set and the frames that I use to build a 3D environment, I can then use CycleGANs to actually merge the patterns that make both perceivable. Understanding what a house made of plants would be made of and applying that to the construction of the 2D images. And in the end, getting this almost like an IKEA map, a building set for how to repiece it together and make a memory version of my reality in the United States. And part number 3 is then this idea of augmenting perception, actually piecing it all together and allowing it to be accessible. And this is the most recent final result. Well, I wouldn't say final because it's always developing. And I believe as AI progresses, one day we're going to be able to touch, feel, smell, and all. But this is my room interpreted by AI. And even though it might not be 100% being back home, there are elements of certain, perhaps unconscious experiences that you can perhaps take from this cognitive cladding. And then the idea is to use this prototype. Imagine this prototype being used throughout you being able to collect memories as you live your life and being able to go back or reshape space based on what you perceive. Even if you understand that you're perceiving it or not, you're able to shape reality or shape the architectural physical space around you based on who you are, and your memories are who you are. So this is a way of personalizing it and allowing us to explore, because once we can change this perception, and this is a system that can be manipulated, we can then start manipulating space as well. And in this case, manipulating space means anything, eliminating laws of gravity, eliminating laws of nature, and going beyond what our human perception is capable of. And just to explain some experiments as well, the idea that our bodies are full of these techniques for us to interpret space, including the ways our eyes are able to focus on specific things and defocus and pay attention. And by extracting also some of these, you're able to explore within the one room what you focus on or not. So this orb, in a way, is how your lenses are focusing on things, and you can choose what to perceive, what to explore, what to look forward, and what to ignore, what to purposely stop perceiving. And then once building enough memory spaces or memory realities, the idea of how do you access it? How do you go through a library of memories to choose from? And the chosen method in this prototype is the mirror, because, well, not only the card talking about the mirror and how seeing yourself as an object in the field of objects is, in a way, expands your understanding of self. But also, mirrors are already portals into other realities. It's a surface that allows you to see the same world through different perspectives, different eyes. So using the mirror to augment how we actually see the other realities and access it. So in a way, creating a network of different versions of what we have as one little space, and expanding our perceptions in the sense of where we could go, what we could explore, and activating memories that perhaps don't even exist yet. So, so the idea in the end, having this memory palace that is accessible, you can travel through, and it is 100% shaped on who you are. Thank you.